Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in, much appreciated. And today we're going to be talking about algae blooms and lake turnover. I've had a couple different requests to talk about this from some subscribers, so I'm going to give you guys my experiences with it, sort of give you some tips on how to deal with it and how to catch some more fish when you have these situations. Just real quick, just want to give everybody a quick reminder. If you guys haven't had a chance to go over to fishandmoment.com and check out the lake map breakdown section, go over and check it out, man. We've got lake map breakdowns for the winter, summer, spring, fall. Myself, Johnny, and Matt Steffen are doing these maps. It's a great resource if you want to learn more about your own lake, or if you've got a lake that you don't know much about. These lake map breakdowns will give you a great starting point, a great foundation to build on. So you can check those out at fishandmoment.com. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the algae blooms, lake turnovers, and that type of stuff. There's a lot of factors that contribute to this, and it's really not that important as far as how to deal with it. But there's a lot of the things that contribute to algae blooms and turnovers. It can be a lot of the pollution that's coming into the lake, nutrient overloads from agricultural use, runoff, that type of stuff. And then just as far as the lake turnover, a lot of that has to do with different changing water temperatures at different levels. Most of the time, though, it's real similar when you get an algae bloom or lake turnover. The lake changes to sort of a weird looking color. It gets like sort of like something like thin pea green, like pea soup or something like that. There's a noticeable greenish tint to the water anytime you get a turnover. Sometimes greenish, sometimes brown. It just depends. Anytime you get an algae bloom or a lake turnover. So most of the time when this happens, I mean, it has a pretty negative effect upon the fish. And the good thing about it, though, is you don't have, when the lake's turning over or when you have an algae bloom, it usually is not occurring all over the lake. So the first thing that I would recommend when you guys see this is to try to distance yourself from that water to begin with. I mean, a lot of times you can't do it. Sometimes there are certain areas that the fish are just in, and there is an algae bloom and some type of a plankton lake turnover, and you sort of have to deal with it from that standpoint. But most of the time you can get out of it by running to a different part of the lake, different section of the creek, different section of the main lake. That's my first suggestion. The second suggestion is you have to fish a little bit shallower. What an algae bloom does and what any type of a lake turnover does, I mean, it basically decreases the water visibility in the lake that you're fishing. And it's almost like, I sort of treat an algae bloom and lake turnover sort of like if you get a bunch of fresh, dirty water come into the lake, like from a rain or something like that. Most of the time it will move these fish shallower, it moves them up closer to the bank, even if the water is a little bit colder like this time of year. And there's three primary ways that I like to approach it. I'll move up and fish whatever shoreline cover is available. It could be rock, it could be wood, it could be docks or whatever. But I try to concentrate on those water depths less than 5 feet deep. Even if the water is in the 50s, I'm still going to be fishing fairly shallow. The three key baits for me in this situation are a bigger spinnerbait, a full-size jig, and some type of a square bill crankbait. Those are the three that I found to be pretty productive. If you do have some grass in the lake you're fishing, hydrilla, milfoil, that type of stuff, one of the baits that I found that works pretty good in that situation is a 1/2 ounce chartreuse side blackback rattle trap. That seems like it gets a lot of fish. But for the most part, I like to use some type of a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce Colorado bladed spinnerbait, like a black and chartreuse jig with some type of a larger black trailer like a Zoom Super Chunk, and some type of a 3-inch square bill crankbait, something that displaces a lot of water. And a lot of times you can catch those fish even during an algae bloom or something like that, by doing that, going shallow with those three baits. But one of the things you sort of have to get in your mind is you have to sort of adjust your expectations, to that environmental factor. The fishing is just going to be a little bit tougher. I have never seen a situation during a lake turnover or an algae bloom where the fishing's that good. It's always usually tough. And I'll give you guys a prime example of what I'm talking about. I was fishing Table Rock Lake. This was it was late winter, I think it was about 10 years ago. and there was some type of a lake turnover or something weird going on at the lake. It probably wasn't algae bloom that time of year, but some type of a turnover situation. And the water where I was fishing sort of turned to this pea green type soup looking water, where you still had, you know, decent visibility, but it looked like there was a bunch of sediment floating in the water. And I did everything that I could. I was fishing the mid-lake part. I was fishing some of the major creek arms in the mid part of the lake, and I just couldn't catch any fish. So I ran all the way down to the dam area down there, and I started fishing main lake points. It wasn't going on in that part of the lake, and wound up, you know, doing pretty good that particular day. So just a combination of moving around the lake, moving shallower, adjusting your techniques, adjusting your expectations a little bit. So anyway, I hope that answers a few more questions for you guys. It's a tough time to fish during those situations, but fish can be caught. And some situations, if you're in a lake that is big enough for you to run around and spread out, you can get out of it. But if you're in a small lake that's not real big, where an algae bloom takes over the whole lake, I'd suggest going shallower with the baits I suggested. Hope that helps out, guys. Much appreciated you tuning in, and please hit that subscribe button, man. We're really trying hard to get to 50,000 subscribers. It seems like the subscriber pace has sort of slowed down a little bit the last 3 or 4 months. So much appreciated if you guys could help me push over that 50,000 mark. So we'll talk to you later. See ya.